I'm Di Brown and welcome to another exciting episode of Baje Stage TV. We're here at the Tom Adams Financial Center, what most Bajans call Central Bank. And at Central Bank, we have the one and only Frank Collymore Hall, named after great teacher, writer, and poet Frank Collymore. Now, who did a lot of plays and produced a lot of plays here? Well, the one and only Cynthia Wilson. That's right, that's who we are talking to right here on this episode of Baje Stage TV.
I in a hurry, I can't stop now. Baje, are you going dead? The other night, a steel donkey hit you in the head. It's a long story, Chuck. I really can't stop now. But you must see here how far John lost it back a white bull cow.
I was born in a place called Lucas Street, which is right behind King George V Park, but we call it Street Road. But now it's known as Lucas Street. That was its name to start with. I was born there in a house which my father rented from my godmother, and she was the headmistress at Bailey's Girls' School, Miss Amy. She was a little lady. And when I was about 2 years old, or maybe a little later, we moved to Merrick's, where my grandmother lived and where the family had a lot of land. So she gave my father a plot of land. So he bought a chattel house and put on it. And that's where we lived for a while until we moved to our own house in Long Bay, which my father built. And I loved that house. I thought it was the most beautiful house in the world because I had a big veranda all around it, you know. And my brother and I used to have races up and down the veranda in rocking chairs. We used to race the rocking chairs. And we couldn't understand why that upset our mother, because we thought it was such great fun. But if they were my rocking chairs now, I would understand. I don't want children racing in them.
Oh, Lord. But do I start to jump? He might have died before I reached.
My first theatre experience, I didn't even know. I was about 2 years old. And my mother was very involved in theatre. She wrote plays, produced and directed them, and as often as possible starred in them. And she was doing, I don't know if it was one of her plays, but she was in something that they were doing as we lived in Lucas Street. They were doing it at a Holy Trinity School, the school hall there. And my mother was in this thing, and she was on stage. And the lady that was supposed to be looking after me didn't have anything to do, so she brought me down to the school because she wanted to see what was going on too. Because in the country, there was really not much happening. No radio, no television, no nothing. So she came down to the school to see what was going on. She brought me. And from the time my mother came on stage, I was so antsy. I was behaving very badly, screaming and carrying on. So my mother, who was on stage, stepped out of character and looked down and told my nanny, as she was for the moment, bring her here. So she took me, put me on the stage, and I stopped crying. I was fine from that moment. That was my introduction to theatre. I didn't do a lot of plays. Well, at primary school, we didn't do a lot of plays to start with. But I remember still one of my favorite roles. I was very ill. I didn't normally get ill, but I would always get the flu. That was the thing I would always get. So I was in bed for a couple of weeks, and then my teacher turned up at the house and told my mother that she was doing a play. She was putting on a play, and that she had a part for me in it. And mother said, but she's ill, she's in bed. My mother said, no, just tell her what you want. So she told me about it, and she told me about the play. So I thought, well, I was well enough to go to school. So I said, yes, Mama, I want to do it, I can go to school. So I went to school and did the play. It was Mrs. Drummond and her 7 children. I was Mrs. Drummond. I had the other girls as my children. I was ordering about and bossing them about, and I had a great time. So I loved that, and I loved theatre because there was no other area of my life where I got to boss people about. And as a child, you know, I want to boss people about, but everybody's bossing you about.
When we was young, and I used to sing a song to say I love you so much.
John, now that we're old and gray, and our youth has passed away, I still longing for your touch.
So what about at secondary school? I believe you went to Queen's College. Was there much involvement with the famous Daphne Joseph Haggett?
Well, at school, Daphne and I did not get along because Daphne was somebody who was very domineering and she liked to scare people. And she had enormous voice projection and she would shout and the children would kind of quiver. When she shouted, I just didn't take her on. And she didn't like that. So we did not get along at all. In fact, we once had a fight. They were having a song competition. They used to have this song competition. And all the schools would compete. And it was we were being judged at the semi-final stage. And that was happening at Harrison College. So we went over there to sing, to be judged. But before that, I had had pneumonia. And I had just come back out to school, just about 5 days. And we had to line up to go inside because Daphne was a sergeant major. So we are there in the line lining up and it begins to drizzle and I'm just out of my bed. So I just broke the line. I went inside where we were supposed to go. So I'm standing at the door of the room. And the room was empty. It was empty, but all the desks were packed against the wall. So Daphne comes in and said, Cynthia Arlene. And she gave me one shove onto the desks. Well, who told her to do that? Even then I was a fairly quiet person, but I had a terrible temper. I still do it. I've learned how to put it away. And so she shoved me onto the desk. So my whole thing is, this woman is hitting me, and I'm going for her. And I did. So we had a little tussle. And the other girls watching were really amazed to see a pupil fighting with a teacher. So when that was finished, Daphne said to me, well, Cynthia, I won't say anything to the headmistress. So I said, well, that is all right, because I'm on my way to the headmistress. So I went to the school and told the headmistress what had happened. And she said, yes, Miss Hackett does get a little over-enthusiastic. So that was the end of that.
It is a very great pleasure today for my government to open this complex, which is the culmination of many, many months of planning and hard work. It is vital to an economy at our point of development to own its own source for producing hot air.
So you got involved in theater when you went to Jamaica? Tell us about that, please.
Well, I went to Mona, and they have a lot of notices up on the notice board, particularly for freshmen and freshman week. And I saw there was a play reading of Sea at Dauphin by Derek Walcott. So by that time I had met Derek too, so I said, well, I will go to this play reading. And a friend of mine from Guyana, Sybil Blair was her name, she said she would go too. So the two of us went down to the dramatic theater that afternoon. We were going down there and it starts to rain and it starts to form puddles in the road. And I had on my new moccasins. So I'm not stepping in that water in my moccasins, so I took them off, held them in my hand and walked barefooted. I figured all I have to do is wash my feet. I did not buy these, I didn't pay for them. So we went down to the theater and I'll be standing there, Sybil and I, and there's a tall young man standing over the other side, sort of looking at us out of the side of his eye. Then finally he looked at me, he said, "Is country you come from?" So I said, "Yes, how do you know that?" He said, "Yeah, rainfall country girl takes she two shoes in she hand and walk." So I said, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm Rex Nettlefoot." And he said, "Who are you?" I said, "My name is Cynthia Wilson. It's Cynthia Arlene." He said, "You come from Barbados?" I said, "Yes." I said, "How you know?" He said, "Fine time you open your mouth, Barbados coming out." So I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "I'm from Jamaica." So I said, "What part?" He told me Montego Bay. So that's how we became friends and remained friends to the end of his life. And I still do miss him. He was my sounding board. Anytime I wanted advice on something to do with my work or anything, I would call Rex and we would have long conversations. And I do miss him.
We'll be right back with more Cynthia Wilson on Baje Stage TV after this.
So he met for Figgins open land. Though he and them don't agree, and he see the bull cow laying down on it a green pea tree. So he Yeah.
So you actually got involved in the play, see at Dauphin? You played a part?
We went down to the reading. And the reading, we realized that all of the characters were men. There were no female characters. So I said to Derek, I said, maybe come all down here to play reading and there are no women in your play. He said, but there are things for women to do in the production. So I said, what? He said, you can't be the script girl. Well, I didn't come down there to be a script girl, and I didn't really know what a script girl did. But I wanted to be involved in the play. So I said, yes. So it was a whole lot of fun. And one night I remember Derek came to rehearsal and informed everybody, Cynthia is going to run the rehearsal tonight. And I was so scared, had no idea what to do. He said, you know what to do. They just have to say what they have to say and go where they're supposed to go. And if they don't do it, shout at them. So I told him, I don't shout. My mother told me ladies do not shout, which she did actually. And it wasn't a good idea. Anyhow, so I got very involved in this sea at Dauphin, and ended up helping to do the makeup, helping with costumes. And there was a particular chair that had been commissioned for Princess Alice, who at the time was it was a chancellor. And they had commissioned this beautiful chair for her. And Derek thought that was the perfect chair for Henri Christophe. And he knew where he wanted to put it on his set, because he designed his set. He designed his own sets. And the chair it had been under the Senate, underneath the Senate building downstairs in the Crofts. So Derek decided that we should take the chair, just steal it. And I, coming from Barbados and St. Philip, stealing was really not in my blood. But I figured that sounded like fun and everybody else was doing it. So I said, so when we steal it, where are we going to put it? He says, Mona had a lot of huts. It used to be a camp, an army camp. And the huts were still there. And Derek had got the key to one of the rooms in one of the huts. So we went this night. We had a poetry reading first, and then we went and we took the chair and hid it away in one of the rooms and put it on the stage. I said, but they're going to see it if they come to the play. He said, I'm inviting every one of them to the opening night, which he did, and they all liked it. It was a good play. We had a lot of fun doing it.
What other noted Caribbean artists did you meet and get to know in Jamaica?
Dennis Scott, who's an excellent actor, and he had a voice. Yeah. There are two actors I know in the Caribbean who have that kind of voice. Both of them have passed. One was Errol Jones from Trinidad. I used to call him Your Majesty, because a voice like that should only come from Her Majesty, you know. And Dennis Scott had that voice too.
Errol Jones was in I, Marcus Garvey.
He played the older Garvey. Tony Thompson played the young Garvey. Yeah. And when he was casting, he would cast, if he was not casting, doing live casting as he called it, he would sit down and think of who in the Caribbean can play this part. And I used to produce, and that was a headache for me, because you have to get that person from wherever in the Caribbean the person was, and that involved money. And we had none. So I used to have to go and talk to the airlines and beg them and explain what we were trying to do and so on, and see if they would give us a ticket for this person. And usually they would.
The rope, they turn the chain. Well, Lord, he fling him away and he run. And the creature laughed. And then he went with caught.
So besides other artists, you say Rex Netherford, Dennis Scott. Was Erwana there at the time in Jamaica?
Erwana went to Jamaica much later. He came to Jamaica to do theatre at the Manly College, and the Manly College was established much, much later. I met her after I came back to Barbados, which I did in 1969.
Right, that's when he was teaching and so forth. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I did. I taught English there, and that was an experience.
So tell us about when you returned to Barbados from Morocco, how the theatre scene was, what was happening, Was this around Writers' Workshop?
I got involved in Writers' Workshop because Writers' Workshop was the most active theatre group. So I got involved with them, and they did a play I will always remember called Teacher, Teacher. It was written by Anthony Hinkson, who has disappeared for reasons of his own. I do think it's a pity because he's a talent. And I was involved in that. I was a fishwife. I was the mother of a naughty little boy. And my own son was cast as a naughty little boy. Perfect casting. And I was very good friends with the Trinidad Theatre Workshop. So Derek called me, she said, Wilson, I hear you in a play down there. I said, yes. He said, well, I'll don't bring it to Trinidad. I said, we can't just come and bring her to play to Trinidad. Who's going to host us? He said, the Trinidad Theatre Workshop will host you all. So I talked to the people who were in charge of Writers' Workshop at the time. And they were quite anxious to go. Bobby Morris was very involved with Writers' Workshop. I think he was one of the original, I think he and Tony Hinkson formed the group. And we went to Trinidad and did very well. I know Trinidadians like to lime. So after opening night, Trinidad said, we taking you all out. So they took us upstairs to the Hilton, and we sat around and had drinks and chatted and limed. And there was music too. And a very, very tall man came and joined us. It seems that he was a member of Trinidad Writers' Workshop before he left. And he went to teach drama at the University of Ife for many years. And he was just home on holiday to see his mother. So we were all talking after the play. So to go out afterwards, I got out of costume and into my own clothes. So you're sitting down, so he looked around, he said, what happened to you fellas? Y'all didn't bring the whole cast? So the Stanley Marshall, who was also a very good actor and a stalwart of Trinidad Theatre Workshop, he said, yes, we did, everybody's here. He said, so where's the mother? So I said, I am the mother. He looked around, you are the mother? Because obviously I look quite different in my own clothes from how I looked in. Because I had gone to Austin to study fishwives. So I go there and sit down in afternoons on a box and watch them. So one of the ladies said to me one evening, but wait, you're here all the time looking at me. What are you looking at me for? So I explained to her why I was there. I said, I'm just studying y'all because we're doing this play. I'm supposed to be a fishwife. I really don't know any fishwives. So I came to see y'all and see how you are.
As a country with an excellent track record in labor and productivity, which is responsible for the interest that foreign investors show in us. That is why Hot Air Incorporated has seen fit to establish a subsidiary here.
We took lights. Earl directed it. Dorsey was the technical producer, and I was the producer. And we came down to London to see Barnyard because we were invited. And Dorsey and Earl and I fell in love with the play, so we thought it would do well in Barbados. So we came back to Barbados and we put it to stage one that they might do the play, but stage one was not interested. But Earl said, listen, Cynthia, we can do this on our own, because in any case you are going to produce it, I will direct it. And Dorsey will be the technical director, so the three of us can do it for ourselves. So we said, let's do it. So we did whatever we had to do, which was getting the venue and everything. And Earl wanted the backbone of the actors from London to come down. So I said, well, that's going to be expensive. But Earl and Don, whose company that was, the two of them had become good friends, so they talked, and so Don said he would try to see if they could arrange passages from up there. And Earl said, well, we can't build a set. So Don said, no, don't worry, we can bring our set. It's a set that can travel. You just need to roll it up, fold it up. And then again, we realized it was just really like fabric painted. And I thought it was just so funny. I thought it was so clever, you know. It was received very well, it was very well done. And the people, when they came down to Barbados, they were so entranced. Not so much Don, because he's Barbadian, he knew Barbados. But the others were from other islands, and some of them had spent all of their life in England. They were of Caribbean background, but they were born and raised in England. And they could not believe Barbados.
Slot machines are damaging to the local economy, bad for the individual soul, his pocket, and his arm.
What were the ups and downs of WWB productions for you?
The ups and downs. The ups were that we managed to do work, and it was good work. The downs were that we couldn't do as much as we wanted, or we couldn't even do it as well as we could have because of money. But we were very, very blessed because there were businesses in Barbados that supported us. Every time I went to these businesses, they see me, they would say, okay, Mrs. Wilson again. I say, you want money, right? I would say, yes, I want money. So what y'all doing this time? So I would tell them. And they say, how much money you want? I would say, I would have a budget and a proposal. I would say, this is how much it's going to cost us. However much you can help us with this, we'd be grateful. We really want to do this play. And usually they would say, well, we would do so-and-so, we would do so-and-so. And a very, very important and very expensive part of doing things is the advertisement, the ads. But the nation was very good to us. I have to say to Harold Hoyt, peace be upon him. And he really understood what we were trying to do. We were all really quite fed up with the fact that people were saying Barbados has no culture. And people would say, like how you would say the sky is blue and not expect anybody to disagree with you. They would say Barbados has no culture, like if that was a given. And that really used to stick in my throat. And so we wanted to have this company that would do Caribbean theater. And not only Caribbean theater, not only like Caribbean theater, like Trans-Island, and have actors from other places come for that kind of interaction between. So we, at least I came to feel that if the Caribbean was ever going to come together at one place, it would come through the artists of the Caribbean.
Not a spoon upon the table, not a fork upon the table, not a towel to wipe my face. Again licking she diamantino, diamantino, diamantino.
How important is advertising for a dramatic production, a play?
Very. Not for the production, but for it to be possible, because you always have to spend money to do it. And if you don't have the money to spend, then you can't do it. So it is very, very important. And then CBC had a thing where the television, they would agree to film your play. And in return, they would give you so many ads. It goes by the minute.
Yeah.
If they film half an hour, you can get so much time in ads. So that is the basis on which we did it.
Right, so you're going to get a lot of CBC promotion and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And radio ads as well.
What would you say if you have this is going to be a tough one, but if you had to pick one production that really stands out in your mind, that when you think of what WWB Productions did that you're extremely proud of, which production would that be?
Lights. Although I'm not too sure if that was WWB. It was done first by Stage One Theatre Productions, but WWB revived it later on. I enjoyed it. It was all women in the play, and that was lovely, a lovely play to do. All women except for Earl, who did the directing. We were researching women in everything. Women in the agricultural sector, women in the professions, women in everything. And so we figured that we couldn't do that and then not talk about sexuality. And different people were appointed to do different things. So I was chosen to go and do homosexuality. And I wasn't sorry. It was really very interesting.
How was Lights received?
Sorry?
How was Lights, the play, received?
It was received very well. And it caused quite a bit of talk. If I remember even hearing a fellow on a call-in program on CBC, and Avril Baje, who was working at CBC at the time, she was in the play. And people were saying that play should not be shown, and this fellow that they were talking to was saying he would not let his girlfriend go to see that. So, what I mean, let her? What is wrong with? What is she, an invalid? Can't she walk? The girl can't go and see the play if she wants to. And a lot of men were anti the play, and that made the women want to see it more.
Exactly.
This is Winston I. Farrell, and this is Baje Stage TV. Boom.
Going up through around the one of Earl's things was that people did not know our own novels enough, so that he felt that if he put them on stage, more people would see them and understand them.
Yeah.
So he loved going up stupid, and he thought it would make a very good play. So he talked to Tom, and Tom was very easy. Tom said, yes, you want to make a play with it? Make the play, man. So Earl did the play. He made the play from it. And Tom came down, was very generous. I, Marcus Garvey is a very good play written by Edgar White, who's from Montserrat, and who's really very different from anybody else I've ever met. He used to have weights around his ankles he used to walk with. I didn't know anything about ankle weights at the time, so I said, Edgar, what are those things you always have around your feet? What is wrong with your foot? He said, nothing is wrong with them, Cynthia. I have to wear them to keep me tight to the ground, otherwise I will float away.
Okay. I remember for I, Marcus Garvey, they had this elaborate, like 3-level set or something like that. Can you talk about that? I think Warner asked for some.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Earl used to design most of his sets. And the interesting thing about it is he said if he had a set to design, he would go to sleep thinking about it, and then he would dream of the set. I remember this play was for stage one, not for WWB. We did, what was it called again? Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. And that's a book I had studied in Middle English when I was at Mona. But the whole story of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and there was this fairy castle. And Earl designed this castle, and Darcy built it, and it was fabulous. It was done in white cardboard, and he had sprinkled it with sparklers. So when the lights hit that, it really looked like a fairyland.
Under the thumb of ignorance, don't fumble or grumble, humble and bow down. Follow the order, the new world order. Get down, kneel down, down to the ground.
NIFCA started in 1973. I'm always reluctant to talk about NIFCA because there is a fable that was carefully crafted and lovingly nurtured. And you know, the saying that if you want something, believe. And Trump, he's a master. He's a master. If you say something that is not true, say it loudly enough, often enough, and it becomes the truth. So this fable, which the whole of Barbados more or less believes, is that Arden Clark and his wife Janet Lane Clark started NIFCA. Well, a lady, I can't call her name, Marcia Burroughs, said she was doing research, because you know Marcia does that. And she said she was researching NIFCA, and she was talking to Janet. Janet died a couple of years ago, peace be upon her. And Janet was saying NIFCA was born right there where you were sitting down. And of course that is not true. NIFCA happened because when I came back to Barbados in 1969, I expected to find a blooming, blossoming art scene. And there was really nothing. The festival choir used to do Bimshire every Christmas time. And Green Room used to do a couple of plays a year. And that was about it. And I was very disappointed. I said, you know what, Barbados can have its own festival. But then the lady who was the artistic director of the Barbados Dance Theatre Company said to me, but Cynthia, Arden Clark is doing a festival. I said, what festival is Arden doing? She said, he's doing a festival. And he has a committee. I'm on it representing dance, where she was. And she told me who else was on the committee. It all made total sense. But I said, so who is this festival for? She said, it's mostly for the artists. And I thought, well, if we are going to do a festival, it can't be only for the artists, because the artists who are established, they're out there already. But what about the people who have a whole lot of talent and nobody gets to see them because they have no showcase? So I want to do a festival for everybody. So I said, how are we going to do this festival? So one night, just by accident, we happened to be invited to get together at the home of a gentleman who was in charge of the OIS at the time. Don't remember his name, it doesn't matter, he's not here anymore, years now. And here I went, and I was out on the veranda for a while. Then I came in to the sitting room, and the men were sitting around drinking and so on, and chatting and telling one another dirty jokes as they do. But I heard the women's voices, so I followed the sound. The women are there in the kitchen, and that really upset me, because coming from Morocco, where the women have to stay in the background, and that really upset me too. So here I am in Barbados, and there are the women too. So I said to myself, this is foolishness. So I didn't know them, because I didn't know most people in Barbados. I had just come back. But I recognized Janet Lane Clark because I used to see her on television. So I said, Janet, I'm Cynthia Wilson. She said, yes. How are you? I said, yes, I'm fine. I said, the person I really want to talk to is your husband, Arden. Is he here? She said, yes. I said, I'd like to talk to him. You know where he is? She said, I don't know exactly where. I can tell you where he's likely to be. He's going to be in some corner, drying up. He's a tall, thin, dark fellow wearing glasses. He's going to be looking miserable. So go, you will find him. So I went out on the veranda, and I saw somebody looking just like she had said. So I said, excuse me, are you Arden Clark? He said, yes, I am. Who are you? I said, my name is Cynthia Wilson. I hear you want to do a festival, and I want to talk to you. He said, but why? I said, because I also want to do a festival. So it makes no sense, 2 festivals. I don't think Barbados could afford that. I said, so what? Your festival is for whom? Who can enter the festival? He said, it's for artists. I said, the festival I envisage is a festival for everybody, artists and not artists. Anybody who thinks they have some performing talent and they don't have any outlet for showing it, that the festival is for everybody. So he said, we're having a meeting next Saturday at the studio at Dance Theatre. Come to it. You want to come? I said, yeah, sure. So I went. So Arden talked and told us about it. Told them all about it, and people, they agreed that it made sense to conflate the two ideas and have one festival. So Arden said, this festival has to have a name. So y'all's homework is to go and think of a name that the letters can form something you can say. We'll meet again next Saturday at the same time, same place. So all week I'm trying to think of a name. I'm just coming up with things you can't possibly pronounce, like So next time when we met, people kept saying what they had thought of. It was hilarious. The only person who made sense was Virginia Seeley. She said the National Independence Festival of Creative Arts, NIFCA. So we had NIFCA. I am so proud that NIFCA has continued. And NIFCA still exists and good, and people are still interested in it, and there is a lot of participation. And I like that very much. I feel vindicated.
Excellent.
And I was working in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So I said to myself, if I want to do this thing, I don't know how to go about doing it to get money. So I said, let me talk to Jean Holder, who was in the Foreign Service at the time, as I was. And we talked about it, and he said the first thing to talk to is Errol Barrow. He said because he has, and the thing to do is to have this festival and have it connected. He says the National Independence Festival have it connected to independence, because his vote for independence is very large. So I'm sure that could fund the NIFCA. So we used to work in foreign affairs. We used to work on weekends on a roster. So this particular weekend I was working and Jean was working, and Mr. Barrow, who was always working, and Saturday morning he's in his office. I saw him drive in. So I gave him time to get in and get settled. So I called and said, Mr. Barr, I would like to come and talk to you. He said, what you want to talk to me about? I said, Mr. Barr, I just want to talk to you. I can't tell you on the phone, it's too long. He said, okay, come on down, come down in 10 minutes. So in 10 minutes I ran downstairs and I knocked on the door. He said, come in, I came in. He said, what is it you want to do? I said, well, what I want to do is this festival. So I told him all about it. He says, how much is this going to cost? I said, I don't know yet. I would have to do a budget and see what it's going to be. He said, well, I have Carafesta this year. This was in 72. And I have to send people there. So I can do the festival this year, but possibly next year we can do it. So you go and cost everything that you think you are going to need. And let me have it and we can talk again. So I went away and did that. I called him another time and he said, okay, come on down. I went down, Jean went as well, and talked to him, and we costed the whole thing. And realizing we wanted to have a gala, and there was no place in Barbados you could have this gala. So I said, why don't we have a Culloden farm out of doors? So of course, no lights, no nothing. So because I was very involved in production, all of that, I knew there were traveling things that you could get. So I came across a thing, and when it came here, the boys used to call it the Big Bertha because it was a big, heavy iron thing. And we had one a lawn like it at Mona. So I knew how to do it. I used to do lights at Mona. And so that was quite expensive, so we costed that in. So we showed Mr. Barrow. He said, you sure you don't want anything else? I said, no, that is it. That's all we want. So he said, who's going to put this together? And there was nobody in Barbados who could think of who could be director for the festival like that. I had a man who go there, sent all over the world to do festivals. He goes to India, he goes to wherever, and does these big outdoor festivals. So he sounds like exactly what we need. That they would bring the man and look after him, and it wouldn't cost us anything. And this man came, he knew what he was doing. So I told my production team, you know what, stick close to him and try to find out, learn everything he's doing so you can do it on your own. Because I didn't like his way. I knew he wasn't coming back. I said, y'all have to be able to do this on your own next year and the following years. So they stuck to him like glue and learned a lot. He did a lot of very nice things. He definitely knew what he was doing. But the man himself.
What you doing up in that ackee tree? Look, if you fall on a break of 2 foot, don't come running to me here. All right.
Alfred was very talented and very charming. I liked Alfred very much. And he used to do something that really I liked. He used to call me and another good friend of mine, Esme Wickham, Fran Wickham's mother. He would call us just to tell us jokes.
Okay.
And when he wanted to do the whole town festival, he called me, he said, Cynthia, you think this is a good idea? And we talked about it. I said, yeah, I think it's a wonderful idea. And I think it would work. So we worked it out, and then he did the festival.
Wow.
But I didn't get too involved with it because I had NIFCA on my plate.
Okay.
And I was still working whilst I was doing NIFCA, so it was. And the people who were supposed to do things like Arden, for example, my husband was here on contract for 3 years. So his 3-year contract was up at a certain time. So when your contract is up, they send you back to the place you came from. And we had come from Morocco. So we went back to Morocco. So at that point, which was really critical for NIFCA, I had planned to write letters to the service clubs to ask for their support and everything. So I left, I asked Arden if he would do it, and I left templates of the thing that he could follow if he wanted to. So I went to Morocco, came back to find that Arden had done nothing. So then I had to do it all myself. It wasn't difficult. The clubs were very interested and everybody supported it. The Trinidad Women's Club were very, very supportive because the night that we opened Nifika, the opening was held, those red brick buildings up by the garrison. Yeah. Over one side, not the side that has the museum, the other side, there are buildings that have flats in them. Okay. And Barbadian diplomats returning home were often housed there. Gene Holder was housed there. Okay. So he said that, he had been looking for a house to buy, and he had found the house and they were moving into it, and they were going to be moving before Nifka. So he said, y'all could use my house. So he said, yes, he would use Gene's flat. So we set that up and we thought we would do the visual arts in there. And we did, we set it up. And I remember Jean and we would pop in every now and then to see if anybody was there, how it was coming. One day we popped up there and Ulrich Rice, peace be upon him, came stumbling out. I said, Ulrich, what happened? You're looking all cross-eyed. He said, Cynthia, you see who them little children up there do? You see that man? And he said, Ulrich's language, you see that? You see what them little children do? Cynthia, man, them is geniuses. I said, they probably are, Ulrich, I'm glad you like it. Awesome. And everybody was very taken with Nifka.
I did a small fish in a pond full of piranha that tried to yam me out of my sanity. So I tell myself, yo, I better start letting my gun talk for me. Because people don't see me struggling to be somebody. They see a black man with a life purpose, none a plan. When I talk, people don't listen. There's judgment.
Yes, it's definitely here to stay. So we gotta definitely thank you for making that happen. What is your view on modern theater? Like theater now, yes, we have COVID, so that's kind of messed up everything. But what before COVID? I'm
not sure what modern theater. You mean theater as it happens in Barbados now?
It's happening now, yes. Yeah.
There's not much of it. From what I have seen, it's not much different from what it was.
It is too expensive. It's $2,000 for that to just packet theater for one night.
Well, that I'm very, very disappointed in that. It is beautiful. I called and asked to have a tour of it. Yeah. I was invited to the opening. I was very fortunate. But then at the opening you just sit down and you look. Yeah. I wanted to go into the dressing rooms and go and really see the place, Yeah. So I called and asked if I could do that, and they told me whom I should talk to, and I did. So one morning I went down and I had a tour and saw it, and it's beautiful.
It is. But it's not being utilized. What do you think about that?
Well, how can it be utilized? People who start out with no money, and you're charging them $2,000 a night, how are they going to pay you? They can't afford to pay you because they can't afford to charge the kind of money they would need to charge to cover that. If they did, nobody would come.
Do you think it's purpose work? It almost feel like they're trying to shut down theater?
Sometimes when I feel that in the beginning, I felt, these people are really not interested. It's just window dressing. They're not interested. If they had built something so beautiful for us to use, they would make it possible for us to use it. But they have gone out of their way to make it impossible.
What would you, Cynthia Wilson, now at your age now, what advice would you give to any theater practitioner out there?
I would say if that's what you want to do, press on. There's going to be a lot of obstacles, but go over them, run them, under them, whatever. If that's what you want to do, press on. It's going to be hard, but keep going.
And though we never get married,
I'll always belong to you. May my love for you grow and
We want to thank Cynthia Wilson for joining us here on Baje Stage TV. Join us for another exciting episode where we look at Bajan theater practitioners and Bajan theaters. I'm Di Brown saying, lights down.